Opening up the UFC Des Moines main card, we have the return of Jeremy Stephens, and he is taking on the returning Mason Jones. It's the battle of the comebacks. Jeremy Stephens, 29-21 in his career. He is an abysmal 1-4 in his last 5. He is, though, 3-0 in bare knuckle boxing. He's taking on Mason Jones, 15-2 in his career, 4-1 in his last 5. He is riding a 4-fight win streak, which earned his way back into the favor of the UFC. So here he is. If you don't know Jeremy Stephens, he should be a familiar name to the diehards and the big-time UFC fans. He's also a weird signing for this card. I understand he's from Des Moines, but his MMA career has been on the wild downslide for a little bit now. He was a UFC staple for a while. He was on the wrong side of the "who the fuck is that guy" quote. He is that guy that Connor is asking about. He had a handful of exciting fights, a handful of exciting wins before hitting a 5-fight skid, which is why he was cut. So then he went to PFL to dominate, right? That's what you do. You get cut by the UFC, you go to PFL, and you dominate. Except not Jeremy. He went 1-2 in the PFL. Then he left there to go bare knuckle boxing, and he finally started to dominate again. 3-0 in bare knuckle boxing. MMA wise, he's a big, heavy-handed striker that's going to move forward, fire away. He's always exciting to watch. He does have the skills to compete, but never compete at the top of a division. The majority of his career was spent chasing knockouts. He's taking on Mason Jones. Similar to Jeremy, Mason was cut by the UFC, and he's now back with another crack at the big show. Mason is an aggressive striker. He's got nice boxing, great takedowns. He's got a fantastic 80% takedown defense, and if he does get taken down, he gets back up immediately, and he starts working. He also has his own solid takedowns. He averages a little more than 3 per fight, and he's coming off 4 regional wins, which, as I mentioned, earned his way back to the UFC. Jeremy's always fun to watch. I imagine this fight will be exactly the same. He got that call back because A, he's from Des Moines, and B, those 3 wins in bare knuckle boxing have been pretty sweet, actually. Like, pretty sweet. BKFC, his wins are good. The Eddie Alvarez win in Philly in enemy territory getting shit on, that was a nice win. So he can bang. He can stand there. He can bang. He can let leather fly. He's also been out of the UFC where you don't have to pee in jars to figure out whether you're on or off something. He's been out of the UFC where he's fighting sort of weird matchups in different sports with different rules, and he is now back, and the odds reflect a pretty healthy gap here, and I think these are correct. I think Mason Jones absolutely gets it done. I think Mason Jones at minus 550 is probably a decent deal. Jeremy has the better body of work. It's not even close, but Mason Jones should get it done. Minus 550. Honestly, those odds seem fine. What do you think, Samuel?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if this was Jeremy Stephens a few years ago, I think these odds would be a little bit different. But a part of his losing skid, if you go back and look at the guys he was losing to, all of these guys would dust Mason Jones. So I think that there is, as bad as it looks, I think he was like 2-8 in his last 10 fights or something. As far as MMA was concerned, he definitely had a very poor ratio. Might have been 3-7 or something like that. But Jeremy Stephens lost a lot of fights in the UFC. And the reason they kept him around, they didn't cut him after 2 or 3 losses, is because he is very exciting and he hits ridiculously hard. He's one of those guys that he does have the death touch, whether it's with his kicks or his hands. He busts people up. And even in his highlight reel loss against Kelvin Kattar, he still broke his nose, and Kelvin Kattar was being interviewed and wiping his mouth because there was blood coming out of his mouth and nose throughout. If you're fighting Jeremy Stephens, you're probably going to get hurt even in a victory here. And the reason why I'm going to have a little bit of an outside pick here is because I went back and watched all of Mason Jones' regional footage here, and this dude is ridiculously hittable. And even though I don't think he's ever been knocked out, if he's lining his chin out there for Jeremy Stephens, who's been doing nothing but improve on his hands, I think the knockout is still potentially there, and it's going to be an odds play for me. I think Jeremy Stephens at plus 420 here. It's potentially a win inside the distance decision action because Jeremy Stephens is as tough as they come. I can't think of too many 145 pounders that have displayed the toughness of Jeremy Stephens. Even when he got his head split open, elbowed, knocked out by Kelvin Kattar, immediately gets up, goes and pats Kelvin Kattar and goes, "Hey, this guy's a stud, well done." He didn't cry or pout about it. This dude is ridiculously tough. So even if Jeremy Stephens loses here, I think it's on the card. So I'm going to take Jeremy Stephens inside the distance.
So you're not worried about the takedown defense?
Oh, I am. Yeah. But I think it's going to be a decision if it gets there.
It didn't sound like it.
I said if they stay on the feet, the defensive gap with Mason Jones, he's very hittable on the feet for sure.
And you're not worried about the size difference?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that is kind of a flyer pick. I get what you're saying. Jeremy Stevens hits like an absolute freight train, and Mason also wears damage when you're that pale. You look like you've been hit. And as we all know, recently, judges only seem to give a shit about who's a little bit bloody, who's swinging for the fences. If this was in Vegas, if this was UFC Vegas, whatever the hell, then it's like, all right, shit. Like, we could have an issue here with Mason being basically see-through pale, wearing damage, and Jeremy just swinging for the fences. I'm on the opposite side. Sam and I are split here. So if you need a tiebreaker, if you need to understand, well, what does everybody else think? Go check out everybody else's picks. That includes Artem, Jacob, and the artificial intelligence. Those picks are all on the website right now, ready to go, including the DraftKings optimizer, including DraftKings playbook, and everything else that you could ever need heading into a fight week. $6,700 in DraftKings fantasy for Jeremy Stevens. I assume you'll want a tiny bit of exposure to him if you're building multiple lineups, but for a single entry cash game, Jeremy Stevens probably isn't going to make a lot of sense. If you're throwing 100 lineups in a large tournament to try to make a nice payday, then maybe a little bit of exposure will suit you well. WeWantPicks.com. Click become a member. It's $10 for an entire month. Anything you could ever want or need heading into a fight week. Next
By the way,
up,
can I address on that real quick? The
Oh,
chat's
I'd love
talking
if
about
you
getting
did.
Adam. The chat's talking about getting Adam on here. Listen, me and Adam were supposed to do a show the other week, and he just didn't show up. So getting Adam on here, I don't know about that. The dude is a very unreliable person to get on the camera. So Adam, if you're watching this, he's probably halfway through a bucket of KFC and about to fall asleep again. So
That's what he said happened, or you just called him fat with the bucket KFC joke?
no, he loves KFC and lives right next to one. Yeah, like we talk about it all the time. He lives right next to a KFC. Yeah.
What a fucking slob dork that kid is. He literally just no-showed.
Yeah.
He
was
just
like,
didn't show up.
He was like, I thought we said tomorrow. I was like, yeah. Messaged me like 2 hours after I'd done it. You know,
What a fucking moron. And the worst part is he's unbelievable at his fight pick average is very good. Last year he averaged like 75% or something dumb. And his regional fights, what he does with Cage Warriors, what he does with LFA is insane. I've been calling him the regional Rain Man. He's picked more than one perfect card in the last couple of months. It's insane. And then his stupid ass just doesn't show up for a scheduled stream. What an absolute moron. He did just send me his PFL video, so I'll have that uploaded tomorrow. You can let him know in the comments what an idiot he is. And also, KFC is probably the worst chain fried chicken. You guys have Popeyes? Popeyes is very good.
no, I don't know if we do. Maybe if we do, everything goes to Auckland, which is our capital city. It has like a quarter of the country's population there. So there are some American chains that have started to spill over, like Taco Bell, but they always go through Auckland, and then if they start to establish success, then they start to go through. But I've not seen a Popeyes, so no.
Yeah, Popeyes is way better than KFC, and then we have even like other regional ones that are unbelievable. Get yourself some Church's chicken. Woo!